know Justin, he always seems to have this favorite warrior each week almost, where he kind of just cycles through, and then as other people start to pick it up, he's like, oh, that's old news. I'm the Garrosh hipster. I'm already playing Diablo.
I'm already on Diablo. I'm already on
Come
the very
on.
end before it's cool, you know? What's the next one that he's going to bust out? Is there a very uncommon warrior that you would like to see? I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I don't have any. Most of the warriors do see play at some point in time. And I'll be honest, I'm totally fine with Johanna not rising back in the meta. So Justin, just go ahead and leave that one away.
Just stick to Garrosh. That was
Yeah.
lots of fun. I enjoyed casting that last one. Well, game number 2 is going to take place on Dragonshire, chosen by Roll20. And I was going over my stats during the Garrosh piece, and that's just not a normal pick for them as far as I can tell. They picked it one time in part 1, but it was also versus Freedom, and they won.
That's the secret. You'd be able to take out Freedom through macro play, wave clear, getting those rotations, being able to get the upper hand there. I do feel like there was a lot to pinpoint about the draft specifically for Team Freedom when they ended up picking up the Brightwing. We all knew that last slot was kind of awkward. I gotta bring it up. It's just the fact that I don't totally hate the direction they went by going into the Sonya, but they were stuck between all main warriors are a bit of a struggle. All main supports are a little bit awkward unless they were willing to, commit to that double support playstyle. But it wasn't the standard. It wasn't with the Ariel, and more importantly, didn't have a great hyper carry. I respect the attempt to recover the draft. I'm a little skeptical of that Brightwing transition from Freedom.
What an interesting ban from Team Freedom.
I would argue probably one of the most effective bans you could have in Roll20 ever. Any overlapping character you can remove from them suddenly removes the draft variance that they can have, significantly.
Yeah, that's what they know of before, but it does seem like Prismat had shifted far enough away from Greymane that it wasn't as much. That's kind of the old Yoda Roll20-esque, where they would pick it because they had 3 different people. Ariel and Garrosh Chromie. That is a Prismat pick right there, is Chromie.
Yeah, second high Chromie on Dragonshire in North America so far. Both games that we have seen, she has seen attention before the secondary ban phase, and that is not very common on this map. So seems like we have found a little bit of a maybe, high appreciation for Chromie here. But the Garrosh that high up, once again for Roll20, really does stand out, showing maybe a bit of a staple for them going forward. Team Freedom typically is the team that know to have those couple of things that are a little bit too hard to deal with. And, right as I was going to say, but it seems like Roll20's got it figured out. They break out a different one, being the Ariel Medivh. More importantly, it's just the Medivh on a 1-4 map like Tomb or Dragonshire.
My question was, with a Greymane ban and then Genji ban and a first pick Ariel, would Team Freedom adjust and play a true double support style? Because although they respected it at the Western Clash, they banned Ariel a lot. They never played a full double support. It was always something like with Dansky's Medivh, or maybe with a Tassadar. And in this case, they're going to stick to their guns. They're going to bring it in Dansky's Medivh, which is very good. But it does still mean that there is no additional cleanse to help out Ariel against the Chromie.
Yeah, and that is, a lot of the positives that come out from having the secondary support onto your team is that the cleanse mixed with the cross-supporting is going to be enough to make up for the window where Ariel does not have a full bar of energy and hope. You can still argue that Medivh Shield may even be better than that because you don't have the same duration as Cleanse, but the displacement can never be made up for. And you can say, well, he has the portal, but if you have the portal solely to stop one heroic, we've seen when Tassadar abuses that with that 20 upgrade that we managed to see in the last game, it sometimes doesn't matter. Like, the portal has near 100% uptime, but it's got a long-standing duration where it is going to exist, and you can't redirect, even with the level 1, because then sadly you lose the CDR. It's a huge trade-off. That's why talents exist, turns out.
It's also if they were going to get like a Rhaegar as a secondary support to help up with their wave clear, likely they'll get a hyper carry who could still help them with that regard, getting somebody to help out with the wave clear of Dragonshire, but it's something to consider. They're also thinking about the solo. We've seen Dahaka and Malthael, how much trouble Dahaka can have with that, so they're going to ban Malthael from Roll20.
I'm looking for what Roll20 is going to be able to provide here. I think Arash should do quite a bit into the 4. And lethal overall, Chromie's going to be a very good job of just flat out saying no to any heavy pressure and siege they're going to be able to apply to the earlier stages of the game. But they go with the ETC in Uther, so a potential Divine Shield in Mosh Pit. Really good synergy across the board for those two. Very little wave clear, though, for Roll20 in this game.
Wait a second, who plays ETC? Wait a second, who play... Justing plays ETC. We gotta have Justing's ETC, though, but Justing's Garrosh. I don't know what to do. Can we have 2 Justings?
Can we have double the Justing? We're just going to clone Justing. Whoever, you know, I'm sorry, you can't play it. We're going to have to kick you out. I mean, if you're going to be subbed by anybody, it might as well be a teammate, right? I mean, it shows you've done something right with the selection of your allies.
I'm sure Goku could play just as great of a Garrosh.
I mean, if he hits Drags the same way he hits Flings, it's definitely a smart upgrade. I would suggest he goes in that direction because if you hit that many flips, you are sure of one of the best Garroshes in the world, and more importantly, set your team up for great success. But Freedom has the Medivh to be able to deal with that this game. They have the shielding to make sure the kill potential doesn't happen initially. They're just struggling with wave clear. They're going to make up for that a little bit here with Lunara and then also a new Barak. A very strong, I want to say outdated comp, but that's not true again because we haven't had major patches recently. It just feels old school because it has been solid for so very long here on the side of Freedom.
And the last pick for Roll20. Blauron Classic.
This has gotten wild, Gilly.
Talk to me, Dread.
I mean, like Freedom's drafting, like I said, it's not wild. It's just, again, none of those heroes were directly nerfed. Not too many major buffs went in different direction. I look at this and I go, that's what I would assume, trickling after the Western and Eastern clash. But then on the other side, it is anything but the case. You have, first of all, we have Garrosh still figuring that out. Justing, we've talked about how impressive that looks. High Chromie, that's been trended on 2 teams now in North America coming out. So I'm expecting to see a lot more of that in Dragonshire as the future moves through. Then we see an ETC of higher priority coming out from Roll20. That isn't anything that they have shown over the long while. But granted, with the Western Clash coming out, I think the Zeratul, though, is the biggest thing. We know Glaurung has played Zeratul. It's not even like, oh, Roll20 is playing the Zeratul. That seems weird. It's just on a map like Dragonshire where there's no direct major screaming vulnerability to get the Zeratul into. What I think this is honestly just providing a secondary threat into the Divine Mosh Pit. But the problem, I don't know if it's a problem. The biggest thing is I haven't played that duo on this patch, and I currently don't know if the coding is wonky. I was wondering that too. I'm just going to say this flat out. For anybody who's ever ran the Void Prison into the Mosh Pit Power Slide, just choose a patch. It's about a coin toss on the probability of you continuing the Power Slide through the drop of the Void. It's half the patches, you just stop in place, and you're like, oh, this is awkward. And the other half the patches, you slide right on through, and you're like, oh, this is Mosh Pit heaven, baby.
I've got you. You don't have to worry because you're going to Void Prison, Divine Storm, and then Smooth as Silk slide in for the 5-man Mosh Pit. Let's get it going. Game number 2 on Dragonshire. That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Just slow creeping right on in. Smooth as silk. That's what we said. Smooth
as silk.
Is that a real thing? Is that a thing people more than just you say?
Absolutely a phrase.
I've never heard that before.
That I just maybe made up.
Already going to be a 4-man posture and commitment here for Freedom, at least so far. Most likely, I'm expecting to sit on Dragon Knight right above.
What?
See that little... What is it?
Goku ETC.
Interesting.
I believe.
The biggest thing here is going to be an interesting laning phase decision. Not laning phase. It's rotation for the level 1 coming out from Freedom. Very aggressive. It's optimistic because they're setting the Medivh to provide vision. The other 4 are above where you can drop a portal, get a huge flank. Just this is, in my opinion, showing that they're appreciating what they learned internationally, even within their own region here. This is very L5, if you will. That's something that they really got very, very effective with. So did Tempest, too. Their level 1 rotations were pretty to be able to watch unfold.
Team Freedom has shown up in the mid. Roll20 went bot just in case Team Freedom maybe was going to show up and try to early siege with the Ariel comp. It also lets them set up to maybe try to counter the rotations. But Goku, my friend, you are going to be a solo laning ETC in the top, and Team Freedom are going to do what they can to abuse that.
This is a really interesting laning phase. There goes a beautiful flip. Should be a burrow charge away. There we go. 13 seconds, so we're going to have the altars on up. But the fact that this tri-lane's getting this pressure up on top is a huge lane mismatch. And I don't know if Roll20 is going to respond in time. Chromie is the anti-siege, which now she is making the transition up top. So let's see how clever Freedom is, because they've already gotten 1.5 turrets up here. Do they, now that the Chromie's made the proper response, just say, well, screw top lane, we're going bottom now? Because you can't do that on mid. You never want to do that on mid. It doesn't have a shrine. But, oh, that's what they're going to do. They're just going to nope right on out. I love it. Freedom. Just beautiful play coming out from them. Just going, well, we're going to make you respond to me. And anytime you can make your opponent respond to you, that means you predict the rotations. If you can do that, you get yourself a free gank.
And they all show up in mid while Dahaka makes the transition. At the same time, seeing if they can catch somebody. Dansky takes the shrine bottom, knowing that a lot of Roll20 is up in the top, getting time for his team to make the transition. Now it's a Zeratul, but Chromie has made the response as well.
She's in hot pursuit. She's chasing it on down. She might not be a Volley, but she understands where this is going. Transition on bottom saying, not today. We're going to stop this. That was... He was just the biggest beetle in the world. Just hanging it up. What's up, boys? Just wanted to, you know, come up, kiss the cam real quick.
And go back. Now, both of the shrines are being controlled by Roll20. They've got Medivh, though. Medivh is an excellent guardian to stay there. He can stay and watch, and if he needs, drop down and stop it. But Roll20 is following what Team Freedom is trying to do especially well. It took them a little bit of time to figure out what exactly was happening, and that did mean that Team Freedom were able to get one of the towers up in the top, but otherwise Roll20 is making it happen.
I've never seen a team do this, but I will say that there is a really clever play you can do around this to be able to deal with it. Channel attempts, I don't think there's anything going to be gained here. It's more Freedom just saying, hey, you know, you got to pay attention to us. We're going to force you to respond. Oh, that was a misclick. Prismat just barely out of range, and then Buds didn't react fast enough expecting it. I guarantee Comms where I got the delay, so he just assumes, looks away. Cost him as Zugrug a Dragonite here very early on.
But as we mentioned, since the Stukov patch, early Dragonites can still pack a punch. The duration was increased, doing more damage with both of his abilities as well, and his basic attacks.
Flat out double the damage there onto the minions as well. One of the biggest problems with the Dragonite overall is that oftentimes the Dragonite needs the minions to do more damage. I mean, everybody... I mean, let's be honest here. The real MVPs, hold on, Nasmus way out here. No way he's going to be able to survive that. I was going to say, how did he get there? But then you see the Garrosh on the other side, and you're like, oh, that's a pretty good indicator.
They're still chasing down Ariel. Nah, she's out. Meanwhile, in Dragonite land, he's rotating down to the bottom. Zugrug's almost done with the dragon. And there it goes. Good night, sweet night.
I was going to take a minute to appreciate and shout out the minions, which are the real winners of, you know, the true MVPs of Heroes of the Storm. No matter how much you don't really like to appreciate how big of a punch they pack, when they are in large numbers, they do hurt really bad on Destructors, especially as the game moves on. Ever since we saw the changes to the catapults, I want to say that was about 9 months ago.
It's been a minute.
It has been a minute. One of my favorite patches in Heroes of the Storm, actually. Absolutely adore the catapult changes.
Well, unfortunately for Dansky, he is about 1.5 levels into Master's Touch and only has 5 stacks. He's been having to rotate around quite a bit, keeping eyes on Roll20, so that's been somewhat slowed down. Toss, Hammer of Justice. Prismaticism drops all the Chromie bombs, but Zugrug burrow charges out.
I feel like this game is just going to be, how many burrow charges do you actually see Zugrug use offensively? Is really going to be telling, just because, I mean, it's rather apparent. We know that with Garrosh coming in, especially the priority that we see being displayed for Roll20 onto the hero, that only makes high mobility heroes even that much more valuable. And relying on him to be able to burrow charge on out all the time is a really awesome tool. So does he have the confidence ever to be using that offensively now that he has a Medivh on the other side, or does he have to wait until the 13th threshold? Because that can happen just over and over again.
Yeah, I can. There's no temporal loop, though, to bring somebody back. Chromie chose Slowing Sands. Goku and Glaurung are caught here. Burrows.
Medivh.
Portal there. Portal out.
Gave him the old switcheroo, too. That was some rich level BM. Respecting that one. Give the portal, get him out. Just go ahead. Here's a dismount. Get yourself 2 more Master's Touch stacks.
That's still one of my favorite Medivh plays I have ever seen, is when he dropped down to steal with Leyline, and Lockdown just caught him with a time trap.
It is actually 10 out of 10. We've seen more Thornwood Vine rise all over the world. The last series and Naventic, or excuse me, Lag Force was not the only team to be picking that up, but they were the most likely to stick with it throughout time, and now it's been picking up traction elsewhere on the map. Prismat's under a lot of pressure here. Good flip there from Justin's going to keep him alive. The stage dive. It's going to be used. Goku power slides away. No kill gained, but Roll20 does have a Dragonite feeding away through mid.
Oh man, and there was still Burrow charge. Leyline Seal follow-up though, maybe not necessary for the team to escape. Zugrug was dragged in, pulled in, thrown in, but still was able to make it out before the end. Roll20 has a lot of their heroic abilities except Stage Dive and Warlord's Challenge should be up fairly soon. They still could maybe force something once Glaurung gets out of this Dragonite, but for now they're happy to siege up in the top. Do a little dance.
Get down tonight. No, that was actually the Dansky really abusing the mobility, I don't know, happenings whenever you end up using the punt there onto the Dragonite. If you lose the vision, you suddenly can't move through and you get all kind of stuck on the front wall. It's really nice to be able to set yourself up for free auto attack speed reduction, minimize the damage of that Dragonite. Goku, really good positioning there, trying to zone off Cure to make sure they get the get this bottom fort going toe to toe. This is a slight edge over to Team Freedom though. When I say slight edge, I'm gonna say actually a lot bigger edge than I'm giving credit for, because they have no actual solid top laner on the roster of Roll20, that if this top fort ends up going down and leaving the Dahaka mismatch in the long periods of time is going to make Glaurung's life that much more dependent to the top lane. And if he keeps doing that, suddenly Roll20 should be less successful into the bottom stages of the game.
It took them so long though to
they didn't
siege
get
the
it.
fort. No, they did not get it. Roll20 was swift with their rotations. They knew that there were a lot of responders to the Dragonite.
Silence.
And then they got the fort in the bottom. Now they're going in for the fight though.
Big Void. It's going to hit 3 members. There's the ley line to get the counter afterwards.
Perfect timing. Justin still there, but really low, using his armor. Divine Shield though too. He tosses Zugrug in right on top of Prismaticism. The Crystal Aegis has been used, but Medivh drops. No more Master's touch stacks.
Yeah, Dansky onto the side was actually punished there. Now Collusion is going to be quick to follow. Glaurung ended up getting killed there by Cure off onto the side. So a 2-for-1 trade going in favor of Roll20. And it looks like they're going to be able to gain what this all started over here. The Giant Camp picked up for Roll20. Cure just barely able to make it out of that drag range. And this game is not working how Freedom expected it to. The Chromie high in transition has decentivized the Aerial effectiveness into the earlier stages of the laning, so I mean it makes a bit of sense as to why we see that from them. But more importantly than that, this mid game hasn't been very, synergistic between Team Freedom and their rotations around the map. They did do a great job into the team fight specifically, especially that lane line from Dansky. But you can see that, it's not the same that we got from the Western Clash out of them. Even the initiation, the isolation goes on the Uther, the stun comes out from Ariel, and then suddenly nobody's else there for the damage. And then Dahaka without isolation, no adaptation. He's pretty much just a walk and drag.
And we've talked about the Lunara Thornwood Vine over Leaping Strike. You are reliant on others largely to get the kills for you. And so far that has not worked out as much as Roll20 have been able to get kills. Roll20 even get another Dragonite.
And now they're focusing the top lane, which is absolutely huge impact for them. For the same reason that Team Freedom getting that top fort would have been big for them the other direction. Suddenly Roll20 has a lane that they are winning that they shouldn't be, and it allows for that laning mismatch to not necessarily be always in Roll20's favor, but it goes in like a wave, conveniently, with the minion waves. As it pushes again, then Roll20 has a huge advantage, but then while it's pushed against and Dahaka threatening outward, it goes over to Team Freedom. But the Dragonite's just kind of dancing around and just drawing aggro while the rest of the 4 members of Roll20 do work through the mid lane.
Yeah, seeing where they can poke in and get some kills or take down another one of the forts. They're ahead, but only a little bit over Team Freedom.
Slowing Sands being thrown out there for Prismat, giving them a nice escape in case anything gets bad. Stage dive still not going to be used there as Dahaka and ETC doing their best on the bottom half. Stun comes out after the taunt used. Medivh's shield is going to be real, but Zugrug unable to make it out. He's going to be the first to fall. Leyline Seal is going to be used. There is a nice Void Prison isolating 3 members. Chromie got the follow-up, but not enough to get herself a kill. Force of Will being used by Dansky, and in the end, it is 1 for nothing.
Great isolation on Justin, making sure that he can't combo anyone else out to the team while the rest of Team Freedom escaped. We've got a pause on the board. So we are now in game number 2 between Team Freedom and Roll20. And Team Freedom still seeming to struggle a little bit versus Roll20. But what's caught my eye is that Goku has another split soak hero. He's got ETC with stage dive, man. It's back.
He actually was like right behind Srey, because when that became a thing and Srey joined the North American scene and was like a huge stage dive fan and coming in, then Goku was on the same roster, and so then it kind of got to the point where he was subtly bringing out more and more here. I did not think this would be the roster that suddenly stage dive would be coming out for Goku, and nor the case, because we talked about the Zeratul pickup there, trying to figure out maybe this is like a mosh pit attempt. But they go with the stage dive and they're making it look good so far. I just feel like a lot of this is just anti-teamwork coming out from Freedom. They're very much trying to figure out what they're doing with not only their drafts, but how to approach the game. Like, you saw they had a game plan, and then it didn't work, and then they're like, all right, mix it up, and then suddenly it was like, oh, that's not working either, huh? And then it was just like, we're just going to let whatever happens, happens, and not trying to stop the momentum gained by Roll20.
Dread, Freedom ended up going up to the top at the beginning of the game, forcing Chromie up, and we remarked at how good it was at being able to pull around the members of Roll20. But Freedom also had a strong 4-man, the strong 4-man that we generally see rotating between mid and bot. Is it really the Chromie alone that is so scary that they had to make those adjustments and couldn't just go for the standard mid-bot rotations?
I mean, I feel like I would argue from their perspective it probably is the justification they're using. I personally don't feel like it is that big of a threat, though. No, I feel like you can. Chromie's only a problem when you have sustained siege for long periods of time. The same way that like Stitches is a 1 hook for 16 seconds on a siege potential. So if he's down, you suddenly are like, it's a 1 versus 4, or it's a 4 versus 5 in terms of the siege and the threat that it provides. Chromie is the same in the fact that you have to stand still, which means long team fights or long sieging is most likely where she's going to be successful against defending. So what you do to be able to make up for that is you just drain the ammo, concentrate on the minions getting in the long run, because their wave clear is poor. You don't want to be using that all on making sure you're rid of the wave. And then when you do siege up, you just do it for small periods of time. It's like 5 seconds, damage, walk, right? It's when you stand around, that's when it hurts. And so I can see it being, yes, the deterrent, but I just feel like that's because you are not willing to take the small victories, which she forces you to do when sieging. If you do so, though, suddenly, yeah, she's good, but she's not nearly as scary as she is for those long fights.
And they even had Medivh, so they could have been rotating between those 2 lanes even faster.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to see that change up, but good on Roll20 of being able to identify and keep up as best as they did.
I mean, Prismat literally beat the tri-lane to the bottom half of the map, understanding that immediately middle's not going to be that impactful. Like, let's focus on stopping bottom, because if they get that too, then it's going to be a really bad time for us. Like, Roll20 is doing a lot of things very right in this game to be able to stop that. It's just, is Team Freedom necessarily putting enough pressure in the areas that they should be compositionally to really allow this game to be in the state that it is right now? And I feel like they have failed to be able to apply that pressure with the draft that they had into the earlier stages effectively.
Well, we are still waiting for the teams to be able to get back into the game and ready to conclude this game, so we're going to head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have the conclusion of our Dragonshire game.
Peace. It has been my life's work. Through honesty and diplomacy, there is no obstacle. There is no obstacle we can't overcome. Within each of our hearts lies a yearning for peace. Even in this odd place, I truly believe that each of us can find a way to live in harmony. As I was saying, I am Jaina Proudmoore. We don't need to fight, but if you insist, so be it.
I'm searching for an apprentice. Someone to train in the art of righteous warfare. Someone to carry my shield, my name, and my crusade after I fall in battle. Not everyone is suited for this life. The crusade is a heavy burden, but someone has to carry it. My name is Johanna. I am searching for an apprentice. Interested?
Life is an adventure. I mean, have you seen this Nexus place? There's limitless worlds to explore. Constantly new things to see. Ew! Sure, there's danger too. What's an adventure without a little action? Oh, I can help with that. I am a Storm Scout after all. And for Storm Scouts, life is an adventure.
Welcome back to HGC. Currently, we are waiting for one of the members of Team Freedom to get back into the game and get ready to go for game number 2. Currently down 1 game in this best of 5 to Roll20. It's good to see Roll20 come back in after they were a little bit disheartened not being able to make it to the Western Clash. But then again, they won BlizzCon. My goodness, Bloodlust. So they at least ended on a pretty positive note for them. They also got the 3-0 over No Tomorrow.
Yeah, it felt like after Bloodlust, like, you know, Glorung felt, I mean, it wasn't like overly confident by any means. It wasn't like, oh, suddenly this means that it's the end of the world, but you could tell that it was like, well, at least we're able to win that, and it shows that we're still kind of growing overall. We were able to perform here still against the top of NA, and they're showing it here. It's just not how I expected, honestly. A lot of this is not how I assumed. I expected a bit more synergy coming out from Team Freedom and also draft variants. I expected to get a little bit weirder, not on the side of Roll20 with the implementation of Garage, and now I'm suddenly going like, how good is Roll20? Because yes, they are being synergistic, but I don't, again, feel like there's a lack of pressure on the side of Freedom. And then it's also like, is it just the Garage? Like, we're yet to see a draft be focused on just like, what if we remove this?
Yeah, two games in, maybe if the victory for Roll20 is in this game, then we would see a ban. But it does feel like it is just so up in the air where his power level truly lies, and maybe it's just more of a team preference thing, what we're going to see him. You know who we really haven't seen a huge amount of is Stukov. There was a little bit at the Western Clash, but other than that, did we have one maybe today in Eastern Clash? Today in Europe?
Yeah, we had one in Europe.
Oh, okay.
I believe we had one played in Europe, or at least paid attention to in the draft. I agree with you. It is surprising. I honestly feel like Stukov is insanely impactful. Silences are, unlike blinds, hurt everybody in the game. And to have an AoE one that doesn't cost mana, to be overly synergistic with a lot of other things in the game. I mean, he does have his downsides, but with so many other supports being attended to, and now Ariel, we see, is going to be in the next patch. He's going to be adjusted. Uther has been attended to. Granted, he always has hammer protection. Until that comes away and, you know, disappears, he will kind of stand out. But as long as that isn't there, Stukov rises in the ranks. Probably, again, comparative to that of Malfurion, but a little bit harder and a little less common. I am surprised at how little we see him overall. I thought we would get more of him, but I don't know. NA has also been less likely to get too wild unless it's, especially in supports. It feels like we're very comfortable kind of just following what everybody else is willing to bust out rather than be the innovators that I happen to.
Well, speaking of supports, what did you think about the patch changes that will be coming in for next week's HGC? Uther, his devotion goes down to 15 armor. Bursting Light removed for Ariel. That's been a talking point with a lot of pros for a while.
Yeah, Bursting Light is a huge setback for Ariel. So much so that, like, if we look at the iteration of, like, when Ariel was considered meta, so she came out, she had specific numbers with how she was able to regen hope, and she was considered very powerful, and that talent wasn't even actually originally taken. Then they see some nerfs to her hope restoring, and it's not as powerful as it once was. Suddenly that talent comes online, and we're like, oh, we aren't relying on one massive AoE burst heal. She's suddenly way more forgiving, way better of a support overall, and then we saw slow development over into the double support in the long run. And so, like, with the changes coming in theory, that if everybody was accurate and the first Ariel is OP, now she's meta because of that talent, by removing it, in theory, she shouldn't be picked. Like, that is how bad of a setback that would be in terms of supporting for Heroes of the Storm. But she also, I mean, she's still got Heart's crowd control. She's still got a lot of good things that I do think that it won't be that harsh, but it will set her back.
Yeah, she still has really good damage, and the damage, if you can hit her abilities, I think is even increased off of that. So I'm very excited to see where the future of Ariel goes. Uther too, and how maybe we get Lucio back in the mix. Maybe we get, oh, that was a Lucio pun. Go me! Maybe we get some Stukov back in too.
Yeah, Lucio and Stukov would be the first two that I would be like, I feel like they are undervalued. More Stukov than Lucio. Lucio has not enough going for him currently as things stand to be justifying, but Stukov's crowd control alone is enough, and more importantly his burst heal, which is a rather rare thing to exist in Heroes in modern day.
It's always nice to hear your support opinions, Dread. We are getting back into the game in very soon fashion, if that was a sentence. But we are giving the max amount of time that Team Freedom can have in the pause per the rules to try to get all their players back in and ready to go in this important match for them. First match of part 2, we've got 5 more weeks of league play, only 5, and then we go into playoffs for our global championship in BlizzCon. The top 2 spots in our standings, they get the auto invite to BlizzCon, but the third, everyone's going to battle it out for that. Here we go, getting back into the game.
I do believe that Cure has left the building, so this is going to be a Dahaka bot on the side of, Team Freedom in the blue. So what was already a grim game and maybe a bit of a grim series, I hate to break it to any Team Freedom fans, but it just got a bit darker.
Oh, we'll have to believe in the Dahaka bot's ability to hit the drags necessary for Team Freedom. But Roll20 have the 16. They're getting a lot of mercenary camp pressures so that they can make a siege somewhere. They're even going to steal away Giants from Team Freedom side of the battlegrounds. They can get a lot going in this bottom siege against the structures of Team Freedom.
How are they going to be able to defend here? Chromie is pretty good at the siege potentially. Without Void up in 30, and again with Dahaka going to be off kind of doing his own thing here, it's going to be very difficult. Looks like Ariel in fact is going to be the one leading. Makes a lot of sense considering, but that means very little follow-up for the initiation here on the side of Team Freedom if they manage to get themselves at 16. And we're 15 seconds away from Galarung dropping a possible Void Prison. Dahaka gets flipped in.
Portal, Burrows. Make it to the portal? No, he cannot. I was going to say, as soon as the gate goes down, things get far scarier for the siege from Team Freedom because of the Garrosh factor. Got the combo of Groundbreaker into Wrecking Ball, immediate destruction of Dahaka for a little bit longer as Roll20 continue their siege.
I'm actually surprised they're willing to take an instant Dragonite here, just because I don't know, maybe it's a little bit because the Global, in fact, was the member that ended up getting the DC, but I'm just trying to figure out, like, so immediately, if you're going to back out for immediate instant Dragonite, you want to do it, like, literally so there's no downtime whatsoever. In a perfect world, Team Freedom still had an opportunity to get that delay. Granted, they were positionally and in poor position and didn't want to take that risk with their Dahaka. But now, Roll20, they've got themselves a Dragonite, and they're going to go ahead and transition here down to the bottom half. This is most likely a keep. It's just if a couple of kills happen, we could in fact see even game. Remember, Space Station Gaming had a 10.5-minute game here over Lag Force in the first series of the day.
Nasmus on that Lunara can throw out the Thornwood Vines, try to weaken the Dragonite and the other members of Roll20. They don't want to pull out that Nasmus too far though, as the battery for collusion. It's important that he does not get caught by Groundbreaker. Justine's looking for it. Doesn't have the cooldown reduction, so it's down an 8-second pull. Dahaka gets the drag on Garrosh.
No Impale to follow up. The taunt being used, the Medivh Force of Will, the knockback. Zulgrug's alive. Aegis is going to be dropped. Dahaka ends up getting the Burrow. Power Slide is going to be used. Justine somehow abusing that armor and that passive. He keeps himself alive. He kites himself right on out, and Nasmus Poison is not able to kill anything here.
And that was my fear when you look at this team and with Thornwood Vine. If you don't have anybody who can assassinate the person who is low in health with a poison, Garrosh with his armor, even ETC being able to give himself some armor, Uther armor too, it is so difficult to get that last kill, and you can use that low health and armor to bait people out too far and get kills of your own.
It's just going to be a hard one here for Team Freedom. Everything is built against them, and already with that game down, I expect Roll20 to just concentrate mass pressure onto the map, paint the map red, wait for a mistake, and then wait for the 20 spike if they really feel like it's going to be that big of a problem. I am surprised at how long it took them to get this fort, or excuse me, this keep up on the bottom half, but in the end, Larong is going to be there to secure it.
2-level lead now for Roll20, and we'll have a Dragonite phase happening again soon where they can get 20 and try for a game-ending move now that that keep is down.
I like game-ending mood. What is that like?
It's elation if you're winning.
Yeah, most of the time if you're on the side, right-clicking the core, you're probably right. What about on the side of losing? Is it equally as negative?
Yes. It depends,
I'm going to
right?
be honest, I heavily disagree with that sentiment, but I realize that's a completely subjective thing.
I think it depends.
Winning is definitely not nearly as bad as losing.
Hey, we've got Kier back!
Oh, man. Wait a minute, real?
Yeah.
Holy cow!
He's made it back. Actually, he's a dinosaur, but that's fine. The cow's on the other side. That was a terrible dad joke. I'm sorry. That was really bad.
I'm just more... We've had 2 times where a bot's come in here in HGC North America, but never has it been swapped out middle of the game back for the original player.
Kier, the hero we need in this dark hour of bot play.
Yes, it is. All right, so with 20 advantage for Roll20 and a 16-minute Dragonite, that is enough, very much so, to be able to get lethal. And if not, it's a double keep. So what do we see out of Freedom to be able to stall that out? Do they forfeit themselves a Dragonite? Do they not? Glorung is going to be getting in this, which means lethal on core is going to be less likely. Actually, good job on top. I thought for sure that was given up.
That was down to a hair. A photo finish of who got that Dragonite or not.
I was just going to say, Glorung is not the person that they went into Dragonite for these questionable lethal calls because of the Void Prison off to the side. You want to make sure that he is the one splitting the members away from the Dragonite, and the Dragonite gets free damage onto the core. But once again, Glorung, in fact, is going to be the member getting in it. Again, it's not by any means a must-have, but it is a really nice if they had that Void.
Yeah, looking at between Glorung, ETC, and then Garrosh, Garrosh wants to be able to pull someone in and throw so that they can possibly get the kill with sprays. And then ETC tends to be the one who ends up taking the final shrine because of his global. So in that regard, seems to be that they prefer to have Zeratul, and then once he pops out, he can potentially drop a Void Prison. The stage dive comes in, though.
Power slide going on to Zugrug. Leyline is going to be thrown out, only hitting one member. Dragonite transitioning onto the core, ignoring the members of Team Freedom, but they're doing their best to get the AoE supporting out there. But with the shielding already gone onto the core, 80 and counting. I don't know if the Dragonite is going to be necessary. We got to remember there's a Void Prison right after this. Roll20 is going to be able to take game number 2 over Team Freedom.
But at least we have Kier back for game number 3.
You are not wrong. I am very optimistic of what the odds are here for Freedom going forward. Getting Kier back online, he's not going to be out for the rest of the series. More importantly than all, let's be real here. It's inconvenient that he ended up getting the GC, but it really didn't change that much. There was maybe 1 keep gained in the process, but over the long run, they were struggling, continuing, getting worse and worse there. And Roll20, end of the day, they know how to end the game, doing it right. Not even needing the Zeratul on the Void. It only hit 1 target. That is not optimal, and this still was a pretty confident win.
Yeah, they had gotten a lot of damage done by the time the Dragonite actually fell, enough that the rest were also focusing on a couple of different people, and Uther seemed to be the primary focus, at least for Dahaka, and Garrosh with some clever throws, both for his teammate, and then Dahaka were able to keep alive the Uther just in case it came down to the supporting of that. But speaking of Garrosh, man, is it time for a Garrosh ban? Roll20 seems like they are very focused on it, but at the same time, that seems, I don't know.
If it was not the new hero, I would say no. But because it is the new hero, I say yes. Just because it usually means that you just don't understand the small stuff. That Roll20's done something with the Garrosh and learning him enough to where they blatantly know how to work together very, very well and punish a lot of things that maybe some of the other iterations haven't been able to do so. So I would be like, well, we can't learn fast enough, whatever that element is. If it's like an older hero, but it's still just kind of coming out of nowhere, like a Tyrande, right? When she shows up, and if you win games 1 and 2, I'd be like, you know what the math problem is on how to beat a Tyrande. You do. She's just been around, so straightforward, hasn't changed too much. Whereas Garrosh, on the other hand, I feel like a lot of people are like, don't really know why this is going so bad. And so I think it's worth the ban at this point.
It's a little concerning to me that Team Freedom seems to have been struggling in team fights. Granted, Roll20 has banned Genji both times versus them, but we know that Team Freedom can fight even without their Genji. They have a lot of elements, a lot of heroes that they can use to bring the aggression. So we'll see if they could do that in game number 3 right after this commercial break. We'll see you soon for game 3.